When it comes to weddings, most of us picture white dresses, flower bouquets, and emotional vows. However, history is brimming with peculiar unions and wedding traditions that are anything but conventional. From royal matchmaking gone awry to quirky cultural customs, these stories are as intriguing as they are hilarious. Before we dive into the bizarre world of historical matrimony, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating tales that make history come alive. 1. The Roman Emperor, who married a man. Let's kick things off with the Roman Emperor Elagabalus, a ruler who defied societal norms with gusto. In the 3rd century AD, Elagabalus married Heracles, a charioteer, in a ceremony that scandalized Rome. The emperor even insisted on being the bride, complete with a bridal dowry and dress. His critics were furious, not just because of his unconventional marriage, but also because he seemed more focused on love than ruling. Talk about driving ancient Rome off course. Literally. 2. The king who married a corpse. In 14th century Poland, King Casimir III took "till death do us part" a bit too literally. After his wife died, he allegedly held a wedding ceremony to marry her embalmed body. Whether this was true love or an extreme inability to let go is debatable, but it's a story that has left historians scratching their heads for centuries. Imagine the wedding photos: one smiling groom and one eerily silent bride. 3. Footbinding and bridal beauty in ancient China. In ancient China, bridal beauty standards reached torturous heights with the practice of footbinding. Small feet, also known as lotus feet, were considered a status symbol and a key to securing a good marriage. Girls as young as 5 had their feet tightly bound, breaking bones to fit the desired aesthetic. While the weddings themselves were lavish, the bride's silent suffering left an imprint on history. The grooms, likely blissfully unaware of the sacrifices involved in creating those dainty steps down the aisle. 4. The king with 2 weddings, to the same woman. King Henry VIII's love life is legendary, but his father, Henry VII, also had a peculiar marital moment. To secure an alliance with Spain, Henry's son Arthur married Catherine of Aragon. When Arthur died, Henry VII, ever the opportunist, decided that his next son, Henry VIII, should marry Catherine instead. The papal dispensation for this was tricky, leading to 2 weddings for Catherine, one with a sickly teenager and another with a man who later redefined the meaning of marital disputes by founding his own church. 5. Wedding traditions in Viking culture. Viking weddings were as fierce and unique as the Norse people themselves. For starters, the groom's sword often played a starring role in the ceremony. He would present his bride with a sword as a symbol of protection and loyalty. Romantic, if slightly intimidating. The bride, in turn, would braid her hair and wear a dress adorned with family heirlooms. Feast preparations included a boar's head and gallons of mead, ensuring that the wedding party was as rowdy as a modern-day bachelor party. 6. The marriage of dogs in medieval Europe. If you thought pet weddings were a modern invention, think again. In medieval Europe, dogs were occasionally married as part of elaborate political or social ceremonies. Lords and ladies would orchestrate these canine unions to show off their wealth and humor. The dogs were dressed in tiny costumes, complete with a wedding feast of scraps. While Fido and Fifi likely had no idea what was going on, these events drew crowds and laughter. The original viral wedding trend. 7. Japan's elaborate bridal processions. In Edo period Japan, weddings were a grand affair. The bride's family would send her to her new home in a splendid procession featuring servants, gifts, and even musicians. She'd wear multiple layers of kimono, each more intricate than the last. But here's the twist. Some brides practiced a pre-wedding custom of blackening their teeth, ohaguro, to signify maturity. While this might sound odd today, it was considered the height of beauty at the time. Imagine explaining that look to your Instagram followers. 8. The handfasting ceremony of the Celts. Before traditional weddings, Celtic couples practiced handfasting, a ritual where their hands were tied together to symbolize their union. This ceremony marked a temporary marriage lasting a year and a day. offering the couple a trial period before making a lifelong commitment. It was essentially an early form of a subscription plan, complete with a hands-on cancellation policy. This practice allowed couples to test their compatibility and make an informed decision about their future together. If the arrangement didn't work, they could part ways without lasting obligations, making it a practical approach to relationships in the ancient Celtic tradition. 9. The bizarre dowry requests of Russian princes. In medieval Russia, dowries were far from conventional. Princes often made unusual requests during marriage negotiations. One famously demanded 300 squirrels' pelts as part of his bride's dowry, while another sought barrels of honey and wax. These quirky demands reflected the era's unique blend of practicality and eccentricity, ensuring the groom received items of value for the time. Forget traditional registries. Imagine trying to pack squirrels or honey into a gift box. For medieval princes, these gifts symbolized wealth, status, and a touch of creativity. After all, what more could a royal groom want than squirrels, honey, and marital bliss? 10. Wedding dress rentals in Victorian England. The concept of renting wedding attire might seem modern, but Victorian England was ahead of the curve. Brides who couldn't afford custom-made dresses often rented gowns, jewelry, and even bridesmaids for the day. Yes, you read that right. Bridesmaids were sometimes rented to enhance the grandeur of the event. This tradition begs the question, how close do you really need to be with your wedding party? 11. French royal bedchamber weddings. In medieval France, royal weddings often ended with a public bedchamber ceremony. After exchanging vows, the newlyweds were escorted to their marital bed, under the watchful eyes of the court. Thankfully, the act itself remained private, but witnesses stayed to confirm the marriage was official. This practice wasn't just a formality. It was a political and social statement ensuring the union's legitimacy. If you've ever felt nervous about public speaking on your wedding day, imagine facing an audience for such an intimate moment. It's a reminder that modern weddings, no matter how stressful, could certainly be more awkward. 12. The kidnapped bride tradition in Kyrgyzstan. One of the more controversial customs comes from Kyrgyzstan, where bride kidnapping was practiced for centuries. Young men would abduct their chosen brides, often with their family's help. While some women consented to these staged kidnappings, others did not, making this tradition a hot topic for historians and human rights activists. Thankfully, the practice has largely faded, leaving behind a mix of humor and horror in its historical wake. Conclusion. History proves that love and marriage have never followed a single script. From marrying trees to corpses, kings to charioteers, the peculiarities of matrimony remind us that humans have always been a little bit bonkers when it comes to love. Whether you find these tales inspiring, funny, or downright weird, they certainly prove one thing: there's no such thing as a normal wedding. If you enjoyed these bizarre matrimonial tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Who knows what other wild historical facts we'll uncover next? Let us know in the comments which wedding tradition or story shocked you the most.